Put on your headphones, turn off every distraction, and for the next few minutes, listen as if your future self is trying to stop you from making the same financial mistakes again. Let's begin. Rohn used to point out something that sounds almost too simple to matter. Most people who stay broke aren't short on income. They're short on a system for what happens to the income the moment it arrives. It isn't the paycheck that decides whether someone stays broke. It's the 4 or 5 seconds right after the paycheck lands, the decisions made on autopilot, before anyone's had time to think. Those seconds never feel significant while they're happening. That's exactly why they've been left unexamined for so long by so many people, including plenty who would say, if asked, that they think carefully about money. Tonight, the actual mechanism behind why broke stays broke, even through raises, windfalls, and good years. Reason 1, they price everything in, can I afford it? Never in, what does this cost me later? Can I afford it only asks whether the number in the account is currently bigger than the price tag. It never asks what that same money would have become if it had gone somewhere else instead. What it costs in the version of 5 years from now that never gets to exist because the money left today. Someone earning a modest income who asks the second question consistently will often out-accumulate someone earning triple that income who never asks it at all. The gap isn't the income. It's which question got asked at the register, thousands of times, across years, until the pattern compounded in one direction or the other. This is why raises so rarely fix the underlying problem on their own. A bigger number arriving into the same question, can I afford it, just means bigger purchases get approved by the same broken filter. The filter was never upgraded. It just got handed a larger budget to make the same mistake with. This is also why 2 people on identical incomes can end up in wildly different financial positions within a few years. The income was never the variable that mattered most. The question running quietly underneath every purchase was. Reason 2, windfalls get spent to match self-image, not saved to match opportunity. Give 2 people the same unexpected bonus. One immediately mentally reassigns it toward whatever their current identity says money is for. New clothes, a nicer version of something they already have, a way of looking like the raise happened. The other treats it as a foreign object that doesn't belong to daily spending at all, and moves it somewhere before it can be absorbed into normal life. The first version isn't reckless. It's identity doing exactly what identity does, closing the gap between how much money someone has and how much money they believe someone like them should be seen spending. This is why lottery winners and athletes who suddenly earn far more than their upbringing prepared them for so often end up back where they started within a few years. It was never really about a lack of financial knowledge. The income changed overnight. The internal picture of how much money a person like me is supposed to have took much longer to catch up, and spending rushed in to close that gap instead. Reason 3. Spending becomes an anesthetic for the exact stress that not having money creates, which guarantees the stress continues. The small purchase that feels good for 20 minutes after a hard day isn't really about the item. It's a short-term repair for a bad feeling, and it works briefly, which is exactly the problem. It works often enough to become the default repair for every bad feeling that shows up afterward. This is the loop nobody names out loud. Not having enough creates stress. Spending temporarily relieves the stress, and the spending guarantees there continues to be not enough. Each part of the loop makes complete sense in isolation. Together, they never resolve. What makes this loop so hard to break from the inside is that it never announces itself as a loop. Each individual purchase feels like a one-time decision, made for a completely understandable reason, on a day that genuinely was hard. It's only visible as a pattern from a distance, and almost nobody examines their own spending from a distance while they're still inside the stress that's driving it. Reason 4. Keeping up appearances costs more than the thing actually being compared. Nobody sets out to go broke matching someone else's visible life. It happens one purchase at a time, each one individually reasonable, each one quietly priced against what a neighbor, a sibling, or a former classmate seems to have. A comparison that's rarely even accurate, since most people are only ever seeing the parts others chose to display. The person paying that price is rarely aware they're paying it. It doesn't look like comparison from the inside. It looks like a completely ordinary decision about a completely ordinary purchase. The actual cost isn't the item itself. It's that the same money, redirected even slightly, compounds into something entirely different over a decade. Matching a neighbor's visible life for 10 years and investing the equivalent amount for 10 years are not two versions of the same financial position. They're two different futures entirely, decided by comparisons most people never even remember making. The comparison itself is usually inaccurate on top of everything else. Most visible lifestyles are financed by debt, not surplus, which means the thing being matched was frequently never actually affordable for the person being compared to either. Two households can look identical from the outside while sitting on completely opposite financial foundations underneath. Reason 5. Not looking at the numbers feels safer than looking, so the numbers never get looked at. Checking an account balance honestly, adding up what's actually owed, confirming what a habit actually costs per month. All of it requires briefly confronting a number that might be uncomfortable. Not checking avoids that specific discomfort for exactly as long as the checking is avoided. The problem is that the discomfort doesn't go away by not looking. It just stops being addressed, and a problem that isn't being addressed doesn't stay the same size. It grows in the dark, quietly, while the person avoiding it gets to feel calm for having not looked. Eventually, the avoidance itself becomes the bigger problem, not the original number, but the years spent not knowing it, which is exactly enough time for a small, fixable situation to become a much larger one that isn't fixed nearly as easily. None of these 5 reasons are about intelligence, and none of them are about how much someone earns. A high income run through all 5 of these patterns disappears just as reliably as a low one. It just takes slightly longer to notice. What actually separates staying broke from building something is which of these 5 questions gets asked automatically, without having to think about it, the way brushing your teeth doesn't require a debate every morning. None of these 5 reasons are fixed permanently into anyone's personality either. Every one of them is a habit, which means every one of them can be replaced with a different automatic response. Not through willpower applied once, but through the same repetition that built the original pattern in the first place. So before your next purchase, even a small one, ask the one question that actually matters. Not whether you can afford it today. Ask it quietly without turning it into a punishment. This isn't about denying yourself everything. It's about making sure at least one question gets asked before the money moves. What it costs the version of you 5 years from now.